Asian markets trade largely lower in the absence of cues from the US market. Japan outperforms with 1% gains following October's inflation data, which came in at 3.3%. The GIFT Nifty is indicating a lower start for the Indian markets. Personal data of nearly 1.5 million customers of the Taj Group of hotels is likely to have been compromised after a data breach. The company confirms the breach and says that the data is not sensitive and relevant authorities have been notified. Qatar's foreign ministry announces a temporary ceasefire between Israel and Hamas starting today, with the first group of 13 hostages to be released at 4 p.m. later today. And the efforts to rescue 41 people trapped in an under-construction tunnel in Uttarakhand reaches the final stage. Authorities say the drilling work has resumed after a minor snag, and they expect to reach the workers later today. It's the final trading day of the week, and we are here to bring you everything that you need to know this morning. Good morning to everyone in the CNBC TV18 newsroom. I'm Hormus Fatakia. This is Power Breakfast. Let's first take a look at how the Asian markets have opened. The Asian market, they have opened largely lower this morning. The Hang Seng is down over 1%, while the Taiwan index is currently flat at the moment. But what the market that is outperforming is Japan. Both the indices are up over 1%, and that after the October inflation data, which came in at 3.3%. And that data was above the Bank of Japan's target of 2% for the 19th straight month. So it's a bit of a mixed cues from the Asian markets. Remember, Wall Street was shut last night, so there are no cues there. They'll resume for trading today, but that will only be for a half a day. So those are some global market cues, but how will these cues impact the Indian setup? This morning, we have our team of researchers from CNBC TV18 joining in to tell us about the trade setup and the stocks to watch for this morning. First up, we have Rima, who's going to tell us the cues that she's watching out for today. Good morning, Rima. There is absolutely no momentum in the market whatsoever.
Absolutely. Directionally, markets have been moving up, step by step, but it's just been lacking momentum. So week to date, we have again, the Nifty on a week to date basis is up 0.3%. The mid-cap index is a gain of close to about 0.5%. So we have been inching up, but it's just been, those hardly few, point move that we've seen on the Nifty and the Sensex. And yesterday, in fact, we closed absolutely flat. You said that I'm going to tell you about the cues. The cues are that there are, not too many cues to work with this morning, with the fact that, US markets were shut yesterday. Today, it's half a day. Asian markets, it's Japan, which, everyone's watching out for after that inflation data. And plus, yesterday, the Japanese markets were shut. In terms of flows, the DII's net bought 457 crore in the cash market. The FI's net bought 255 crore in the cash market. Just a quick word on the IPO numbers. Tata Tech has seen an overall subscription of close to about 15 times. Gandhar Oil Refinery 2, a little north of 15 times. Flair Writing, 6.1 times. Fedfina, last day today. And so far, about 90% of the issue size has seen a subscription. Back to you.
Thanks a lot for that, Rima. And speaking of IPOs, IREDA, the PSU IPO that ended yesterday, was subscribed 39 times, becoming the 7th most subscribed PSU IPO over the last decade. So we'll keep an eye out for all the 4 IPOs that are closing today. But now over to Abhishek, who's joining in with the stocks to watch out for today. Abhishek, tell us more.
Well, Hamas, to begin with, Lupin gets US FDA approval for Bromophenec ophthalmic solution. Go first IBC case. Banking sources tell CNBC TV18 that lenders will convene next week to take a call on the way ahead for the airline, while NCLT has granted 90 days extension for Go First resolution. Remember that the key bankers to Go First are Central Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, Deutsche Bank, as well as IDBI Bank. Now, as you mentioned, IREDA IPO gets subscribed 39 times. Remember that the valuations were on the cheaper side, which actually got the street excited. Valuation was about one-time price to book value for a 2% ROA business. Now, sources tell CNBC TV18 that data of 15 lakh users exposed in Taj Hotels data breach is available to buy on Darknet. Now, Indian Hotel spokesperson has responded, saying that the data is of non-sensitive nature. Now, Prestige Estate has launched a residential project in Bangalore. NMDC, they have increased the lump ore prices and fines prices by 200 per ton. So lump ore is now available at 5,400 per ton, while fines price is now 4,660 per ton. Union Bank of India credit rating has been upgraded by ICRA to about AAA from AA, while their outlook has been revised to positive from stable. Sources do tell CNBC TV18 that Apar Industries has launched a QIP with an issue size of about 1,000 crore. Now, indicative price is about 5,264 share. Now, this indicative price is at a discount of 7.5% to yesterday's closing price and 5% discount to SEBI floor price as well. Back to you.
And we keep an eye out on all of these stocks. Abhishek, thanks a lot for joining in. And he was highlighting NMDC, and Nigel was reporting about it yesterday, citing sources that the price hikes that the company has undertaken will take effect from Thursday. And lastly, now we have Manglam Malu joining in with the FNO Qs this morning. Good morning, Manglam. What are the focus is now on the monthly expiry, basically next week?
Yes, and you guys were speaking about NMDC. Let me tell you that also will be in focus because it comes out of FNO ban. But let's talk about the market itself. Yesterday was weekly options expiry, and it seemed as if someone put a magnet at that 19,800 mark because the Nifty opened higher, thereafter went lower, and irrespective of anything, was meandering around that 19,800 mark itself. And looks like this magnet will be removed only on Tuesday. Why do I say that? Because yesterday we had no global cues coming in from the US. Today there is a shortened session. So if we have any cues, we will react to them only on Tuesday because Monday is a holiday. So up until then, where is the range that we're looking at? The range was defined by the market itself. Yesterday's high of 19,875 and previous trading sessions low of 19,703 would be the broad range that the street would be eyeing. Yes, there was purchase from the FIIs in the cash market yesterday along with the DIIs. However, remember that the FII volumes were on the lower side on a gross basis. And because of this magnet around that 19,800 mark, there have been a lot of long positions which have been unbound. So FI sold around 550 crores in index futures, and in that there was unwinding to the tune of 3,000 contracts, a few shorts added to the tune of around 2,200 contracts as well. What that does is that moves the long short equation to 21% long positions versus 79% short positions as well. And if you look at the index futures composition, it looks like those longs were unbound more in the Nifty Bank than the Nifty, because the Nifty Bank saw an open interest reduction of almost 5%. It has been underperforming the frontline index itself. So let's talk about the magnet itself then. 19,800 for the next week, which is the monthly options expiry or the monthly futures and contracts expiry. We have the 19,800 call and the 19,800 put, both of them extremely active for a premium of close to around a combined premium of 200 rupees. So you have the 19,800 call with a premium of 130 rupees and you have around 60 rupees available at the 19,800 put. So what does that mean? That the option writers are eyeing a broad range of 19,600 to 20,000. This range was slightly narrow, 19,700 to 19,900 for the last week, but now because it's monthly options expiry, we have the range which has been broadened out as well. The Nifty Bank is at an important level. Why? Because supports are nearer than resistances. Supports are, the 20-day moving average and the 200-day moving average. Yesterday we bounced off the 20-day moving average itself. On the way up, 44,000 is a mark that we will be keeping an eye out on. Let's talk about stocks. Stocks that have come out of FNO ban are HPCL and entered FNO ban are HPCL and Balrampur Chini. There was a lot of up move in HPCL that we saw in the last few trading sessions, and out of ban are BHEL and NMDCs, both these public sector units rather.
Interestingly, HPCL is not a stock that we see in the FNO ban pretty often, so we'll keep an eye out for that today. Thanks, Manglam, for all of these updates. But he's made a very valid point that 19,800, someone has put a magnet there, but we'd hope that the magnet is removed from that level and put at a higher level sooner or later. But time for a short break here on Power Breakfast. Up next, we'll get you cues. I'm sorry, we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Power Breakfast here on CNBC TV18. Now shifting focus to another story. The personal information of about 1.5 million people may have been exposed in a data breach at the Tata-owned Taj Group of hotels. Sources tell CNBC TV18 that this sensitive data is up for sale on the dark web. Sources added that the data compromised was from 2014 to 2020, which indicates that the breach was likely to have happened in 2020. Now, while the Taj Group has confirmed this data breach, they have termed this as non-sensitive in nature and have notified the relevant authorities. And onto the pharma space now, India's drug regulator has ordered production halt of 76 of the 237 pharma companies it inspected due to poor manufacturing standards. Now, this is according to an Economic Times report. Inspections were carried out since last December after India-made cough syrups were linked to the death of over 60 children in Gambia. Show cause notices have been issued to more than 75% of these firms inspected. The Organization of Pharma Producers in India is calling for strict action against these companies flouting these quality standards. Listen in to what the DG of the Organization of Pharmaceutical Producers of India had to say regarding this issue.
Maybe there are a few who don't meet those standards. And there we need to take some hard calls, because as a country, because of very, very few manufacturers, our image cannot take a beating. So I'm fully with you that yes, the quality infrastructure needs to be enforced, strengthened, and enforcement has to be done. And not only enforcement, there we need to set an example also.
And on to a CNBC TV18 exclusive now. Veteran investor Mark Mobius, who recently announced that he's stepping back from running his investment firm after over 3 decades, believes that India will be a beneficiary of the slowdown in the Chinese markets. Speaking to CNBC TV18, Mobius said that he is not concerned about the valuations in India and believes that many companies offer a higher return on investment. Let's listen in.
Flows of money coming into India have been quite substantial and are increasing. And that includes not only portfolio investment, but also private investment. So India is going to be getting a lot of money that normally would have gone to China. So what we focus on is not necessarily the price earnings ratio or the price to book value ratio, but we're looking at return on investment. And it's amazing when we do scans of the Indian market, how many companies have a high return on investment, which is a good indicator of growth prospects, because if you have a high return on investment, you have a lot of money to reinvest. The biggest mover for India has been the adoption of technology by the government, the digitization of the government services, of course, starting with the identity card, but then moving into so many areas, which has made government more efficient and has made the individual Indian citizen aware of the opportunities that in technology for them in their own life. So I think this has been an incredible journey. And of course, I think Mr. Modi has to take responsibility and credit for this change. It's quite a sea change. It's something that is quite remarkable.
Mark Mobius there speaking to CNBC TV18. And time for a short break here on Power Breakfast. Up next, we get you cues from the commodities market. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Power Breakfast here on CNBC TV18, and now getting you the latest updates from the tunnel collapse site in Uttarakhand. The rescue operations at Uttarkashi had to be halted last night after cracks appeared in the platform on which the drilling machine rests. The drilling operations will resume by 9 a.m. today, and the workers are expected to be rescued soon. Although several medical experts have raised concerns on the health of the 41 workers, the authorities confirm that all the workers are safe and that there is no shortage of light and oxygen inside. A total of 41 ambulances are stationed on site to help the workers post the evacuation. Moving on to the big global story now, the temporary ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas is set to begin today. The first group of Israeli hostages are expected to be released from Gaza. About 150 Palestinian women and children imprisoned in Israel will also be released as part of the truce deal. We have NBC's David Norega with the latest updates.
The pause in hostilities is scheduled for 7 a.m. local, and 9 hours later, around 4 p.m., we expect to see the first group of Israeli hostages released from Gaza. That is a group of 13 people, women and children, comprising complete family units that will be transferred to Israeli custody. The Israeli government is already in contact with the families of those hostages and is preparing them for the reunification. In addition, both the Israeli government and Hamas leadership have confirmed that Red Cross personnel will be allowed to access the remaining Israeli hostages inside of Gaza to ensure that they get any needed medical treatment. Furthermore, aid trucks, possibly hundreds of aid trucks per day, will be allowed to enter Gaza through the Rafah crossing in Egypt. The ceasefire is expected to last 4 days, and groups of at least 10 Israeli hostages will be released each day. Concurrently, 3 Palestinian prisoners will be released for every Israeli hostage from prisons inside of Israel. The ceasefire could be extended as long as Hamas is willing to release more Israeli hostages. The Qatari government, which brokered the deal, hopes that this will be the beginning of a longer-lasting truce.
Important developments there from Gaza. But now Manisha Gupta is joining in with all the updates from the commodity space. Good morning, Manisha. All eyes on the OPEC meeting now, which is now delayed.
It is, yes, Hormuz. And, ahead of that, the crude oil prices are trading steady at $81 a barrel. But even with that, this is going to be a 4th weekly decline for the crude oil prices going forward. So the OPEC and allies are facing dispute among themselves, especially the African countries like Nigeria and Angola, which are aiming to higher oil output. And that is something that the OPEC and allies do not want right now. The other thing is about the U.S. record output and the inventories, which have been surging for the last 3 weeks as well. And apart from that, the European business activity eased in the month of November. That is putting pressure on prices, is the reason we seem to be meandering around that $80 per barrel mark right now. But in the metal space, we are looking at many of these headed for a weekly gain. The copper prices are trading above $8,400 a ton. That's a 3-month highs for that. The yuan has formed, which is also supporting Chinese buying. And, interestingly, the copper prices have now moved in contango. The cash is trading at $100 off a discount versus the 3 months. So that tells you that there are supplies and the markets have moved in tandem with that. Good gains coming in for gold, silver, aluminum, zinc. All of these metals are trading in the positive for this week.
Thanks a lot, Manisha, for all of these updates. Plenty to watch out for in the commodities market. But with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Power Breakfast from myself and the team that put this show together. Thank you so much for watching. Bazaar Morning Call takes the action forward.